I was backing my car up my driveway after a long day of work, eager to get out of my uniform and onto the couch, when I first saw him. There was a little kid, a boy, standing on my porch. Oddly, my first reaction was fear, though I couldn't tell you why. But I could feel my heart speed up as soon as I saw his face pop up in my rearview mirror. He was dressed in denim shorts and a red t-shirt, and a backpack was slung over his shoulders. His face was pale, and he had light brown hair peeking out from underneath a blue baseball cap. His eyes locked onto mine in the reflection as I put the car in park and pulled the keys out of the ignition. I broke off the unsettling eye contact to glance up and down the street. What if this is a robbery? I thought wildly. That's a thing, isn't it? Children used as decoys to get your guard down. I shook my head a little, realizing how ridiculous I sounded. Jesus, I need to lay off the late-night true crime rabbit holes. The street was empty, except a tabby cat wandering idly by the storm drain. I glanced back toward the boy as I gathered my duffel bag and laptop case from the back seat. Then it dawned on me, and I laughed at myself. Once every few weeks or so, I'd get neighborhood kids knocking on my door, asking to retrieve a frisbee or football or whatever else out of my backyard. My fence shared a side with two other yards, both of which housed apparently very social and rambunctious children. Chuckling, I shut the car door a little too hard, sending the cat scurrying off down the street. I waved at the boy. "So, what is it this time? Soccer ball?" I asked him as I stepped up onto the porch. He cocked his head slightly. "Ball? Yeah, did y'all throw something over the fence again? If you give me a minute to set my stuff down, I'll grab it for you." That's when I realized something. I couldn't hear any kids playing behind the house. Besides a sprinkler across the street and a police car siren going off in the distance, it was quiet. I could feel myself getting a little nervous again, this time worried that this kid was lost or in some sort of trouble. I squatted down, concerned. "Hey, what's your name?" "Matt." Something about him seemed familiar, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it yet. "All right, Matt. You okay? Where's your parents?" He shuffled his feet. "She brought me here." "Your mom, you mean? She dropped you off here, like on my porch? Why?" Then an idea hit me. The reason he looked familiar. I tried to smile at him. "Is your mom's name Jennifer? Jenny?" He nodded. I sighed, probably failing to hide how frustrated this whole situation was making me. Jenny was my ex. We didn't date very long. I'm the one who called it off. She'd been great at first, but it soon became apparent she had a serious drug problem. I couldn't deal with the mood swings or the constant stealing and lying, so after a last-ditch effort to get her to get help, which she staunchly refused, I broke it off. Damn, maybe this is a robbery after all, I thought darkly. Part of me still felt bad about dumping someone that was obviously in a bad place, but honestly, I just wasn't equipped to handle that sort of thing. I was also not equipped to kids, and looking at Matt, I realized this was the longest conversation I'd had with someone other than an adult in years. I found out Jenny had a kid, or perhaps multiple, pretty early on in our relationship, but I never met them. They didn't live with Jenny, and it was obviously a bit of a sore topic for her. When I asked, she told me that the dad was an asshole that refused to let her see them, and that was the first and last time it was brought up. Of course, later I'd realized the real reasons behind her lack of custody, but at the time I didn't want to upset her, so I didn't pry into it further. And here I was, still unable to shake her out of my life. This was really putting a damper on my plans of doing absolutely nothing on a rare stretch of off days. I unlocked the door and walked into the house, setting my bags down inside. "You can put yours down with mine here." No reply. I turned back and saw Matt had not followed me in yet. He stood right outside the doorway, head tilted, eyes on me. "Hey, come on inside. It's getting dark out here and the porch light is busted." I shepherded the boy into my living room and onto the couch. I sat across from him in an armchair. After a couple minutes of awkward silence, I asked him why Jenny had dropped him at my doorstep. There was no one else, none close enough. Matt hadn't yet blinked. His eyes were wide and dark. They reminded me of a shark or some other cold-blooded animal. I rubbed my eyes wearily and groaned. That didn't surprise me. The only bridges Jenny hadn't burned were shady characters that had no business taking care of a kid. Not that I had any idea how to either, but at least she didn't have to worry about Matt stepping on a dirty needle or seeing God knows what at a wild house party. And Marlene, Jenny's mother? God, I did not want to have to deal with her again, but I figured she would be my best bet to pass along the kid. She lived about 4 hours away, likely why he hadn't been dropped in her care to begin with, but I would be more than happy to make the drive. I just needed to call her to get the address. I glanced at my phone. Nearly 9 o'clock. I looked over at the boy. He'd been staring at me blankly the whole time. I'm not a fan of kids, to be honest. I don't hate them. I'm just never around them much. But this kid gave me the creeps. I wondered why she had to leave him behind so quickly, and why he was with her in the first place. I hoped she had checked herself into rehab, getting help before she could talk herself out of it again, and not something nefarious. Do you, want some food? Matt shook his head. Not hungry? Okay. Are you tired? It's getting kinda late. When's your bedtime? He shrugged. This is like pulling teeth. Come on, Patrick, get it together. You're the adult here. I pulled out some spare sheets and an extra pillow, turning the couch into a makeshift bed. I opened the backpack and found a couple changes of clothes and some toiletries. I handed Matt a pair of PJs and a toothbrush and guided him to the bathroom. Once he shut the door, I wandered into my own bedroom and pulled out my phone. I tried calling Jenny first. The number you were trying to call is no longer in service. I wasn't that surprised. Her not paying her phone bill or losing her phone had always been a point of tension while we were together. I sighed. Steeling myself, I dialed Marlene's number. After a few rings, it put me through to voicemail. I left a quick one, stammering out a couple sentences, explaining what was going on, and to call me back ASA, then hung up. Should I call the police? I didn't want to get Jenny in trouble, not if she was trying to turn things around. Besides, I had no idea where she was currently, since she moved to a new apartment after the breakup. I walked out into the living room, and was surprised to see Matt already fast asleep on the couch. It hit me just how exhausted I was. It had been an insane week at work, and I'd put in a nearly 11-hour shift. Yawning, I decided that I'd be able to deal with everything after getting some rest. I double-checked all the locks, and then got into bed, leaving my door open a crack in case anything happened and Matt needed me. I passed out almost immediately. Daddy! Daddy! My eyes shot open. The soft glow of the alarm clock illuminated a pair of eyes inches from my own. Shit! I scrambled upright. Jesus, Matt, you scared me. I'm sorry. I frowned. I'm not your dad. The eyes stared, unblinking. Oh, I could barely make out his outline in the dark. Are you okay? There's a monster trying to get in. Monsters aren't real. You probably had a bad dream. Like I said, I'm not great with kids. Go back to bed, okay? Can I sleep in here with you? No, I don't think that's I can sleep on the floor. I didn't like the thought of that, but I was too tired to argue. Okay, sure, I guess. Up until that point, Matt hadn't been very emotive. He hadn't laughed, or smiled, or cried. But when I said that, he grinned wide, and something about it made my stomach flip. Maybe it was the way the green light bounced off of his teeth, evoking the image of a Cheshire cat, or maybe a wolf. I stayed frozen as he disappeared beneath the side of my bed. I couldn't see him, but I could hear his soft breathing. And every once in a while, he'd make this odd clicking sound, the way one might against the roof of your mouth with your tongue. It took me a long time to fall back asleep, and when I did, it was fitful. I woke to knocking on the front door. The clock read 11 o'clock. I must have slept straight through my alarm. Sunlight streamed in through the cracks in the blinds, making me squint. I peeked over the edge of the bed, half hoping last night was just a weird dream. but the crumpled blanket and pillow were still laying on the floor. Matt, however, was not. I hastily pulled on some jeans and made my way to the front door. The boy was in the living room, staring blankly at the TV. It was off. "Morning," I said, a little nervously. "Here, let me help." I switched the TV on. A solemn-looking news anchor stood above a running banner reading, "Suicide epidemic has experts." I quickly flipped through channels before landing on something more child-friendly. The knocking got louder. Okay, I'm coming." I jogged to the door and cracked it open. "Were you still sleeping? It's almost noon. What, did you forget your hot, awesome girlfriend was coming over?" She winked playfully, smiling. I blinked, still groggy. Yeah, I had. With the long workday yesterday and all the strangeness of last night's events, I had totally forgotten about our plans. Sheepishly, I grinned. "I'm sorry, it's been a long night." Her eyes wandered over my shoulder, and her smile faltered slightly. "Who's that?" It's kind of a long story. Come on in, I'll make you some coffee." A few minutes later, I had gotten her up to speed. She did not look pleased. "How long is he going to be staying here?" "Not long," I answered quickly. "I mean, shouldn't be." I led her into the living room. Matt looked at us out of the corner of his eye, but didn't say anything. I cleared my throat. "Matt, this is my friend, Claire," she interrupted, finishing my sentence. "Nice to meet you, Matt." She wasn't very convincing. Maybe she thinks he's secretly my kid. She turned back to me. "So now's not a good time?" "No," I sputtered. "No, it's fine. Stay." I smiled weakly at her. "It's just for a few days, if that, I promise." I felt claustrophobic suddenly. "Hey, I could do with some fresh air. Get out of the house for a bit." Claire looked a little uncomfortable, glancing over at Matt. "I don't know. Maybe we should stay in. We can grab a bite to eat, make a date out of it. My treat." About an hour later, we were all seated on the outdoor patio of a little cafe downtown. I had brought some paper and markers along, hoping to keep the kid entertained while we waited. A waiter brought a pitcher of water and a couple cups to our table. "Hey, we'll actually need one more," I gestured towards Matt. I was half worried he'd ask us to put the markers away. The tablecloth was white. But the waiter didn't even look at the boy, just apologized. "I'll bring another right away. Are you ready to order?" I nodded. "I'll have the burger, medium well, side of fries." He scribbled away at his pen pad. "Anything else?" "Yeah, a chicken tenders basket with, how about the fruit cup? And, I paused for Claire to order, but the waiter just kept looking at me expectantly. Claire cleared her throat and pointed down at my menu. "And a chicken Caesar salad, please. Thanks." I relayed her order to the waiter. He nodded and wrote the rest of it down. "Hungry, huh? I'll have the extra glass out in just a sec." He walked off, and I poured some water for Matt and Claire, figuring it would be the chivalrous thing to wait on the third myself. As I was sliding the last one over to Matt, who was now fully absorbed in his drawing, a snippet of conversation caught my attention. Worried about her, you know? She called me up the other day to tell me her daughter was visiting, asked if I wanted to make the drive up to see them, but like my aunt died nearly a decade ago. I looked over out of the corner of my eye, not wanting to seem nosy. 2 young women were sitting at the table across from us. One was nodding sympathetically, hand over the others. Mine had memory issues, dementia, I guess, towards the end too. It might be time to consider... "Pat, are you with us?" Claire interrupted my eavesdropping. "I was asking you how work has been lately." Embarrassed, I turned my attention to her. I vented about my job for a bit, and apologized again for forgetting about our date, which she laughed off. "It's okay, Pat. Don't worry about it. We've been together for, well, a year next week. Time's gone by so fast. I know it's not as Her voice trailed off. I noticed the girls at the other table were now trying to steal glances at us, whispering among themselves nervously. I followed Claire's gaze to Matt. I had almost forgotten he was there. He hadn't said a peep the entire time. He had the red marker in his hands and was putting some finishing touches on his drawing. I craned my neck to get a better view. He had drawn what looked like a crow. its eyes scratched out with little X's. The neck flopped to the side at an awkward angle. He was dotting its head with the red ink, which I assumed was meant to be blood. "Hey, what you drawing there?" I kept my voice light. He didn't answer, just smirked slightly and kept working. He was holding his left hand rigidly under the table, something that I normally wouldn't notice, except his eyes would dart down to his lap every couple of seconds. Claire and I exchanged a worried glance. "Matt," I said softly, "what do you have under there?" He slowly raised his hand so we could see what he held. When I gasped, he dropped it quickly onto the table. It was a crow. Its head twisted sharply to the side. A fleck of red smeared off onto the light tablecloth. I found it. That grin again. It looked so unnatural on the face of a child. "All right, I'm so sorry about the wait, sir. It's been a busy..." A glass clanged against the patio. Of course, the waiter picked the absolute worst time to return. He stared at the dead bird, then up at me. I apologized profusely, handing him my card and a hefty cash tip before asking to get everything to go. He complied, quickly this time, and I grabbed the bags in one hand and Matt with the other, quickly crumpling the drawing and shoving it deep into my pockets before ushering the boy and a mortified Claire into the car. Once the three of us were back home, I asked Claire to keep an eye on Matt and excused myself to try and call Jenny again. I turned on the TV in my bedroom on low to keep my voice from carrying into the living room. "The number you are trying to call is no longer in service." I dialed Marlene once more and was robotically informed her voicemail was full. I slammed my phone down onto the bed. Fuck, this was not the relaxing time off I had hoped for. Of all the kids in the world, of course I get stuck with the poster boy for the next horror blockbuster. Another strange case in which the would-be perpetrator tried to turn themselves in for, ultimately, a crime that police say never actually took place. The woman, whose name cannot be released at this time, said the boy claimed to be her nephew, whom she hadn't. I swiveled towards the TV, straining to make out the muffled words. After conducting an extensive search, it was determined that the teenager she claimed she killed most likely never existed in the first place. Neighbors report no. The signal cut out for a moment. I heard a clap of thunder in the distance. Claimed self-defense, stating that the intruders exhibiting odd behavior posed an active threat to their lives. However, when they tried to show law enforcement the crime scene, the bodies seemed, apparently, to vanish into thin... What the hell? I ran my hands wildly around the bed to find the remote, knocking it off in the process. Once I retrieved it, I turned up the volume a notch or two, hoping the closed door would still muffle it enough. Follows on the heels of two other similar cases this week alone, though in the first we covered, a family member did report seeing the supposed female. However, their testimony has been called into question by, "I know you're not my dad." I jumped. Matt had the door slightly open and was staring at me through the crack. I hastily turned off the TV. "What? I know you're not my dad because my dad is dead." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." He stared at me for a very uncomfortable moment before closing the door. Once I heard the footsteps fade down the hall, I let out a breath I didn't know I had been holding. I was shaking. Get it together, man. It's a kid. A creepy kid, sure, but his mom's a crackhead. What kid wouldn't be a little messed up in the head from all that? I glanced at the dark screen of the now silent TV. And people have always been a little crazy. We're only seeing these non-existent patterns now because we're so connected. We have all the information in the world at our fingertips these days. Footsteps approached my room once again, followed by a soft knock. "Hey, it's me. Can I come in?" To my relief, it was Claire. "Yeah, no problem." She sat on the bed with me, legs crossed. "I'm gonna stay with you tonight, if that's okay, just in case." She lowered her voice slightly, glancing toward the now wide-open door. That really freaked me out at the restaurant. I'm not saying the kid is dangerous, but it wouldn't hurt to have an extra pair of eyes and ears, you know? I nodded, kissing her forehead gratefully. "Hey, have you watched the news lately by any chance?" "No." She frowned. "Why? Should I?" I hesitated a moment before answering. "Nah, things are so depressing in the world right now. It's good to take a break." I figured I was just being paranoid, and I didn't want her thinking I was losing it. Maybe you should take a break from watching too. You seem tense. She smiled thinly. Also, I thought you said Jennifer had a daughter. Did I? I frowned. Jen and I had barely discussed her child. It was possible I hadn't remembered correctly, or at all. Must have been mistaken. We ate our boxed lunch, now technically our dinner, in silence. Matt didn't present us with any more dead animals, thankfully, but every so often I caught him shooting a dark look towards Claire. She didn't seem to notice, and I didn't want to bring it to her attention by calling him out on it. Later that night, I once again arranged the couch into a makeshift bed, and he settled in without complaint. I felt bad for him then. He didn't ask to be here. Hey, I've been trying to get in contact with your mom and grandma. I know it's no fun staying here. I'm sorry. I'm not used to kids around. I'm sure I'll be able to talk to them soon. Figure this out. Okay. Another soft click. I suppose he had a nervous tic. Try to stay out here this time, okay? Okay. His eyes again seemed to darken for a moment, and I suppressed a shudder. I patted his shoulder awkwardly. All right, good night then. Claire was waiting for me in the bedroom, sitting cross-legged on the bed. Is this legal? What? I mean, are you going to get in trouble for having him here? What if your ex tried to say you kidnapped him? She gestured vaguely towards the direction of the living room. And why the hell would she do that? She was upset about the breakup, yeah, but not that upset. She stared at me as I talked, arms crossed. I tried softening my tone. I mean, he's just visiting. It's not against the law to have a friend's or acquaintance's kid at your house. I want him gone. Soon. For a brief moment, an odd look passed over her face. It didn't look like the sweet woman I'd been dating. I was taken aback. But then it was back to normal, so fast I wasn't sure I had seen it at all. That's not really your call, is it? It's my house. It came out harsher than I intended. She was out of line, but I wasn't trying to start a fight. I knew the kid was making her uncomfortable, just like me. She laid down and adjusted her pillow slightly, and I saw something glint beneath it, reflecting the light from the lamp. Claire, what you put under there? When she didn't answer right away, I pulled up the side of the pillow to see for myself. What the hell, Claire? A knife? She stared at me, face unreadable. It's just a precaution. Like I said, he scared me earlier. I don't trust him. This is insane. He's a little kid, Claire. I was pissed, but half of the anger was coming from a little voice in my mind saying she might be right. I pushed the thought away. Just leave if you're that freaked out. She huffed and turned angrily to her side, facing away from me. I sighed and turned off the lamp, the cold pit in my stomach growing bigger. For once, the dark made me uneasy instead of relaxed. Needing a distraction, I rummaged around my nightstand for my earbuds, popping one in and turning my phone's brightness all the way down so as not to disturb Claire. I scrolled through YouTube shorts. I've stubbornly refused to download TikTok, and the comedy skits did help put me at ease. That is, until a weird one popped up. The camera was pointed at an open front door, but from an awkward, low angle off to the side, as if the person filming was trying not to be obvious. I couldn't see through the doorway from this vantage point, only a woman with her back turned towards the camera holding open the door. Suppressed laughter kept causing the image to unfocus and shake. "Jess, why'd you even invite her?" Someone unseen whispered. Low voices agreed. I guessed there were 3 or 4 girls behind the camera. "Dude, my mom made me. I think she feels sorry for her. I didn't want to. She's a total freak. She's like the girl from The Grudge, or like a vampire. For real, would it kill her to get some sun once in a while?" One snickered. I assumed the woman at the door was her mother. She was talking to whoever was outside. I turned the volume up, trying to make out what she was saying. "No problem at all. Both of you come right on in." "Oh my freaking God! No way! She brought an imaginary friend?" fits of poorly muffled giggles all around. That's so freaking crazy, even for her. The mother must have heard the laughter because she turned and shot a quick glare at the group. As she did, a small, pale girl appeared behind her, stepping through the doorway. The group hastily shoved the phone into the couch before she fully entered, video going dark. I thought back to my less than popular school days. Middle schoolers can be absolutely brutal, as I remembered all too well. But after recent events, the video just got to me. A kid showing up randomly, acting creepy? It hit a little close to home. And, as silly as it made me feel, the vampire comment admittedly freaked me out. I thought back to Matt standing rigidly right outside the threshold, waiting for me to invite him in. How pale he was. He didn't say Jenny was his mother. I assumed. He barely agreed. I clicked on the account name. The most recent video had only been posted an hour ago, less than a day after the one I just watched. A girl's tear-streaked face filled the thumbnail. A small smear of something suspiciously rust-colored dotted her t-shirt. I clicked nervously, but the video was stuck buffering. Damn storm. I thought that 5G crap was supposed to fix all this. Patrick, you need to get some sleep. Claire's voice was right by my ear. She laughed a little when I jumped. I closed the app quickly. My phone was about to die anyway, so I handed it to Claire, asking her to plug it into the outlet on her side, and she agreed before rolling back over. I shut my eyes, willing myself to sleep. Eventually, I did manage to pass out for about an hour, until my eyes shot open. Something had woken me, but I couldn't immediately pinpoint what. I rolled over to look at Claire, but she was still facing away, sleeping peacefully. Click. Matt? I squinted, trying to find his silhouette in the darkness, but couldn't. I shifted uneasily. Matt, is that you? I whispered. No one answered, but I heard a slight rustling. I thought back to the other night, how he'd laid on the floor. I inched toward the edge of the bed and peered over, my eyes having adjusted to the darkness somewhat. Nothing. My stomach flipped as an unsettling thought popped into my head, and I slowly swung my feet off the bed until I was standing upright. It would be a tight squeeze, yes, but he was small enough. An image of him, teeth bared sharp and limbs contorted tightly, flashed unbidden in my mind. I quietly got down onto my knees, craning my neck to look underneath the bed. I took a deep breath and swept my gaze back and forth, and nothing. The feeling of being watched raised the hairs on my neck. I whipped around, eyes landing on the closet. Matt, is that you? Click, 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 click. Heart in my throat, I closed the distance and threw open the door. Matt was crouched in the corner of the closet, wide-eyed. He held something tightly behind his back. Give it to me. I spoke low but forcefully, hoping he couldn't see how much I was shaking. Now. He dropped a jagged shard of glass on the floor. I thought back to the shocked waiter shattering the cup on the patio. Had he been hiding it this whole time? Why? I hurriedly scooped it up, nearly slicing my thumb open in the process. What the hell do you think you're doing? He held my gaze. Killing monsters. Go. I pointed towards the door. Do not come back in here, you hear me? Stay on the couch and don't move. I'll be out in a minute to talk. He slunk past me quietly. I stood vigilantly by the door until I heard the creak of him clambering onto the couch. I can't do this. I can't. I've got to get him out, tonight. But where could I take him? I pulled at my hair in desperation. I glanced over at Claire, still fast asleep, somehow. Call Mom. She'll know. Why haven't I thought to call my own mother? It was well past midnight, but where my mother lived, it wouldn't be much past 10. I padded softly to the side of the bed where Claire was sleeping, careful not to wake her. My phone was charging on the floor next to her. I unplugged it from the outlet and hurried into the hall bathroom, shutting the door behind me.
She picked up on the second ring. "Patrick?" She sounded panicked. "I've been trying to call you all night." I frowned, pulling up the call logs. It was empty. "Honey, have you seen the news?" Her anxiety was only heightening my own. "Yeah, a little, but hey, Mom. Something is really wrong, hun. I wish you were here. I don't like the thought of you living alone with everything going on." She paused.
My neighbor, you might remember Betty. She died last night. Oh my God, Mom, what happened? The police say she killed herself. She sounded dubious. But you don't think so? Well, they found her hanging from the shower rod in the bathroom. You know, one of those actually built into the wall. I glanced uneasily at my own shower. So why don't you think she did it? It certainly looks like she did. But Patrick, all these cases on the news. She paused. Betty had a visitor for a few days leading up to her death. She introduced him as her cousin. But she's told me before both her parents were an only child. Okay, so maybe second cousin or whatever they're called. Mom, slow down. No, just listen for a minute. Our other neighbors, they didn't seem to notice him. I mentioned him to Paul next door, and he said Betty didn't have anyone staying with her. But I had seen both Betty and her cousin at his door earlier that day. It looked like Betty was returning a book she must have borrowed. She took a breath. And then, she wasn't reported deceased until her daughter stopped by to check on her. If this cousin was staying there, he must have seen her body. The daughter, Anna's her name, she said there wasn't any sign someone had been staying there at all. She didn't know her mother had any cousins either. And Patrick, there was no car besides Betty's old sedan in her driveway the entire time. How'd he get there? How did he leave? I had seen him just the night before. It just doesn't make sense. Well, maybe he took an Uber. I trailed off weakly. I didn't even believe that myself, and I knew she wouldn't either. Mom, make sure you keep your doors locked, okay? Don't let anyone in if you haven't specifically asked them over. Maybe call your friend, what's her name, to stay with you for a while. She agreed, then asked, "Is everything okay? I'm glad you called, of course, but it must be, 1 o'clock over there? What are you doing up?" She paused. "I know, things have been tough for you lately, I worry about you, living so far away." I realized then I didn't have the heart to scare her right now, not when she was already so worked up and couldn't come to see me. "I'm just returning your calls, seeing if you're all right. Couldn't sleep." After hanging up, I slumped against the tub, heart beating out of my chest. I had been hoping to get some advice, but instead our conversation had only cemented my suspicion, slowly building since that first day, that Matt wasn't just a troubled child. He was something more, something potentially otherworldly, and he was dangerous. I had barely begun wrapping my head around all of this when I heard a yelp and a sharp crack, followed by a thud. Shit, Claire, how could you leave her alone? I raced back to the bedroom, flipping the switch to the overhead light. Oh my God, I breathed. Blood was slowly soaking into the white sheets. Claire was holding her shoulder. I had to. She looked at me blankly. "He stabbed me, Patrick. I was just trying to get him off me." I saw a pair of small feet peeking out beyond the end of the bed. Slowly, I walked around, revealing Matt sprawled across the floor. His neck was twisted unnaturally to the side. Blood flecked his lips. Just like the bird, I thought feverishly. Like the crow. He hit the bedpost. I didn't mean to. I turned towards Claire. I stared at her, speechless. I didn't know what to feel. Seeing a dead child is absolutely horrific, of course, and his pale face burned in my mind. But was he even a child? And for it to be self-defense, honestly, a very, very small part of me felt relieved. It didn't have to be me. It was over. I swallowed the bile creeping up my throat, head pounding. "Claire, we need to get you to a hospital." "No," she snapped loudly. She lowered her voice. "No, it's not that deep. I'll go wrap it up." I buried my face in my hands as she walked off. I knew I should probably call the cops, but they wouldn't notice the body, would they? They'd throw me in the loony bin like they did all the others. I'd lose my job. I'd lose the house.
My life would be ruined even more than it already had. This is insane. This is way too insane. Oh my God, why did all of this have to happen to me, to us? When Claire returned, a bandage plastered neatly around her arm, she helped me strip the bed. We wrapped the body in the sheets and dragged it into the bathroom in silence. The body will be gone in the morning. It will be gone, like the others on the news. It was self-defense. He wasn't human. Claire laid down on the bare mattress and closed her eyes. We were both exhausted, but I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep. I left her there and fell onto the sofa. I pulled up the search engine on my phone and typed "mystery visitor murder." I needed answers. The screen loaded pages of results, all from the past month. The first one was a write-up recapping the news report I saw earlier in the day. A thumbnail of a low-resolution YouTube video read "Kill or be killed" in bold above a conspiracy nut-looking dude miming holding a gun. I rolled my eyes and scrolled past, finally clicking on a short-form video that caught my eye. A manic-looking face filled my screen. Not everyone can see them. That's how you can test it. The teenager talked rapidly as she filmed herself in a car. I think, from the research I've done, the people I've talked to, my theory is that only people who have seen someone die or dead can see them, the visitors. She sucked in a deep breath. I saw my grandfather die when I was 10. I could see my uncle, she threw exaggerated air quotations as she said this, when I came home from school. Mom said he was visiting. I'd never met him before. When my brother got home later that night, he ignored the guy and just went to his room. I thought he was being an asshole like usual. Her face screwed up and she paused to wipe a tear running down her cheek. My mom died that night. I found her in her bed.
She had pills stuffed down her throat, the ones she keeps in her bedside table. Another pause for another tear. She wiped it away angrily. The police say she killed herself, that I invented this uncle as a coping mechanism. My brother thinks I'm mental. She looked straight at the camera, defiant. But people will see soon. It's all over the news now. People are catching on. And whoever finds the body, well, now they're super... She stumbled over the words for a minute. They're susceptible to them too now. It's an invasion. It's spreading. Don't invite them in. The video ended there. I sat silently, considering her chilling words. My mother and I were in a car crash when I was 12. My dad, the driver, didn't make it. What she was saying made sense, at least as much as anything else about this did. My eyelids felt like lead and my head was pounding. The late and interrupted nights were taking its toll. Insomnia slowing my thoughts to a dull crawl. Flashes of Matt's dark, lifeless eyes kept warming into my head. Somehow, I must have managed to fall asleep, because I woke to the sound of my phone blasting my ringtone in my ear. Unknown number. My stomach churned uneasily as I answered. Birds chirped merrily outside the window. Hello? Hey, Patrick. This is Jen. I'm so sorry I'm just now calling. I left the rehab early. My mother died, and I have to deal with her things. She, killed herself. Jenny started crying. I'm getting myself on track, Pat, I swear, but it's my fault. She's been at the end of her rope with me for a long time now. I didn't tell her I was getting help. I wanted it to be a surprise. And now she's gone, and it's all my fault. She hiccuped wetly. I'll come by tomorrow to pick up Matt. Like I wrote in the letter, he can be a handful. He hasn't been right since he saw his dad die. And I'm so sorry, but I really didn't have anyone else. I just... She kept talking, but the ringing in my ears drowned her out. My mind was struggling to connect the dots. Letter? What letter? Matt isn't real. He doesn't exist. Jenny has a daughter. He... My eyes wandered toward the shut bathroom door. No, Jesus Christ. Patrick, are you still there? Is it okay to come by tomorrow around noon?
That's the earliest I can get there. If I could come sooner, I would. I'll have to ask my girlfriend, I croaked out hoarsely. I walked dazedly into the bedroom, shutting the door behind me. Claire wasn't in bed. I heard water running in the bathroom. I didn't know you had a girlfriend. Yeah, we've been dating for a year now. An uncomfortable thought was trying to weasel to the front of my mind. A year? But what? Pat, we broke up 4 months ago. Are you saying you were cheating on me? Patrick? The phone dropped out of my hand. I was suddenly aware how quiet it was. The water in the bath had been shut off. I held my breath. Patrick? Who were you talking to? Claire's voice floated from behind the door, low and cold. Tap, tap. It didn't sound like a knock.
It sounded like something sharp against the wood. I shoved Claire's pillow off the bed. The knife was gone. Can I come in? I could hear the predatory grin in her voice, the true wolf in sheep's clothing. I sank onto the mattress, mind racing. Your coworkers have noticed you've been depressed lately, calling out more often. People know it's the anniversary of your dad's death. I imagined her running the knife down my arms, propping me up on a pillow, wrapping my stiffening fingers around the handle. People will be sad, but not surprised. They'll say the signs were there. I started hyperventilating. The waiter, the 2 women at the cafe, they saw me with Matt. They saw me turn to the empty chair next to me, talking aloud to no one. They'll find Matt's body. It won't disappear because he's real. They'll think you killed him, that you snapped under the pressure. They'll say you couldn't handle the guilt once you came to your senses. Sour bile creeped up my throat. I felt like I was going to throw up. Tap. You'll invite me in. A soft, cruel laugh. I can wait all day. I'll wait all night long. And I believed her. So that's where I am now. I decided to take this time to send a message to my mom, to tell her I love her. I also spent a few hours writing this all down. I know I could have kept it short, and I know most people will think it's bullshit, that I'm just trying to cover my tracks, but I really want you to understand, to put yourself in my shoes and see why things happened the way they did. Also, I took my time writing, to delay the inevitable. I'll be calling 911 shortly to let them know they'll find 2 bodies, because Claire is right. My life is over, one way or another. I will let her in. So, if anyone is reading this, and you think you know me, if you're a friend or loved one, I'm sorry. Jenny, I'm so unbelievably sorry. It's an invasion, and it's spreading. Be careful who you invite into your home.